Board and hit present, share. It's a pretty short PowerPoint today, so I think there's only like 30 slides compared to the 60 that we had yesterday. So it will be a shorter day today. So we have restaurant operations, day 14, standardized recipes. Hold on 1 second. All right, so let's get this party started. Let's go talk about yesterday. A little recap of menu design. Hold on. Excuse me. We were talking about eye magnets and where things are located, and you know how the specific spots on a menu, you know, are kind of the sweet spot and all of that. And we watched a video on how just even changing a menu location or just items on a menu that really changes the look of it completely and allows the customers to see it a little bit more. Plus, you're kind of being more strategic on where you place certain items on your menu, so where it has more of a visual, and with that sweet spot, it's kind of in the middle or on the sides, depending on what your menu is. We talked about color and different colors, how it could be kind of calming, or you know, the colors you want it to match your, you know, ambiance as well, not to be too loud of a color, or neon or what have you. But you want, you know, you need those sorts of things. Using boxes around around items to identify, you know, what you're, you know, to make your eyes more attractive to certain areas. So, you know, those sorts of things, spacing out things a little bit more, not putting dot, and then the money sign, and then the amount in bold or whatever else. You know, make it so where it's kind of ends right at the description. We talked, excuse me. We also talked about the description of using descriptive words: crispy, silky, you know, creamy, crunchy. All of those things, trying to make people more, or make it more appetizing and make it more sound better, so people will want to order it. So that's kind of any questions or anything about yesterday that y'all want to talk about. All right. So let's get to this video. Did I share the?
Grammarly does more than catch errors. With Grammarly, you can find really good, no, perfect words that make your writing sharp.
All right, welcome to Food Cost, the Beginner's Formula. I think most people understand or grasp the concept of food cost, right? What does my food cost relative to my sales? Most people ask this question so they can figure out what leftover profitability is. But before we take this big jump forward and really dissect food cost, this is more of a course than it is a class. So today, I want to be surgical about the introduction to this conversation. And that's going to start by taking a step backwards before we can take a step forwards. So first we're going to explain the importance of food cost and why it's critical and how it has generated so much buzz over the years and over its lifespan throughout the industry. We're also going to take a really simplified look at food cost in general. We're going to discuss some common misconceptions and create some definition around terms and different phrases that you might have heard that probably require some clarity. And then we're going to look at the 9 critical impacts that affect food cost. And finally, as a takeaway, I want everybody in the room to walk away with an opportunity to actually go out and start impacting those 9 critical areas of the food cost today. So even if you're not an expert, even if you're just getting started in food cost and diving into this aspect of your business, I want you to at least have this gift of some best practice and some next practice in managing and controlling costs and profitability. So let's begin. I think the first and most critical thing to understand is why food cost is so critical to the conversation of restauranting. The sales dynamic of every dollar that comes into a restaurant is pretty universal industry-wide. In fact, there are biannual reports that come out from a company called Deloitte. They're an accounting firm and consulting firm, and they get together with the National Restaurant Association and they pull hundreds, if not thousands, of concepts over a 2-year course. They look at their profit and loss statement and they aggregate this data to look at what is the average throughout the industry in food cost, labor cost, fixed expense, our non-fixed expense, and profitability. So what I've put up here is an opportunity to actually look at how this dollar is broken down. So you'll see first, 60 cents on every dollar is devoted to prime cost. So as soon as that dollar goes into the till, 60 cents of it's already accounted for, period. Now, when we dig a little bit deeper, we can also see that from that remaining 40 cents on the dollar that's left over in total gross profit, that is also slowly chewed up and consumed. 20% of that goes to what's called our controllable expenses. And we can go into detail on that a little bit later. Next, 10% goes into what's called our fixed cost. So controllable expenses, really quick, those are the things that you have to spend money on, but you don't necessarily have to spend as much money on depending on what your cash flow situation and things like that look like. Marketing, for example. Everybody should be marketing, and there's a critical reason why the industry spends 2% of sales on average on marketing. But given the different complexities of your business, cash flow, seasonality, those types of things can be curtailed. As opposed to the fixed costs, those fixed expenses actually aren't as negotiable. Rent, for example, is one of the items in a fixed cost. That's not going to change, at least it's not going to be changed or impacted by you month to month. So that is on this fixed line as opposed to the static line of controllable expense. Now, when you add up that 60 cents on the dollar in prime cost, 20 on the controllable expenses, and another 11% on fixed expenses, that leaves the average operator in the industry with about 9 cents left to take to the bottom line. What's interesting is if we break those numbers down a little further, what we tend to see is that these national and big chain restaurant groups are doing profitability in the range of 10 to 12% on average, and trust me, there's many doing well beyond that, in the 20s. But on an average, 10 to 12% in profitability. When you look at the average independent restaurant, single or multi-unit, independent, smaller operator, the average contribution to the bottom or gross profit is 4 to 5%. So this gets us asking, why are these big corporate concepts or these big multi-unit concepts able to capture twice as much profitability as the independent? Well, believe it or not, we don't think that it has anything to do with how well they purchase or how well they sell. It really is relative, right? People are trying to hit the same type of static food cost line. People are trying to hit the same type of labor relative to rules. They're not incorporating overtime. They're managing their budgets. all of these things, if everybody did them the same, sales and the way people purchase their product doesn't necessarily impact this piece. It's the discipline around the profit and loss schedule, and the one variable that often has the largest gap when it comes to profitability is food cost. So as we break down this dollar, and let's be specific, this is food and beverage cost. And that's a great place to start with some clarity around one of the first definitions I'd like to introduce you to. And that is the difference between food cost and cost of goods. Total cost of goods is indeed one big high-level bucket that we can look at compared to our sales. The reason why we don't just look at cost of goods is because it doesn't give us enough information in general. So let's talk a little bit about cost of goods. In the cost of goods, that is both your food and your non-food items. Food we can control, we can measure, and we can manage. The non-food items are a little harder to control and manage. They can still be managed, but not as granular and not as measurably as we can do with food. So let's talk about some non-food items. Think about your to-go containers. That's a great example of an item that we can't necessarily build into the recipe cost of a product because we don't know if every single customer that came in had their food to go, or if they ate it here, or if they ate it here and then took some to go. There's all kinds of category items that fall under non-food. We put that in a separate bucket, and we focus on food cost because this is what we can impact, measure, contain, control, and manage. So because of that, we really have to focus on food over everything else because it's typically the biggest culprit relative to what is robbing our profitability. And the big concepts know this. Another interesting statistic that comes from the NRA and Deloitte is that on average, restaurants that are using some type of inventory and food and beverage cost control system typically have an 8.5% reduction in food cost over those who don't. So immediately, if we're looking at trying to figure out why these big national brands and big multi-unit concepts are twice or more profitable than the average independent, we could probably look here immediately. Now, certainly, there's nothing more dynamic in this industry.
And another reason why the big companies they have like for example McDonald's or Wendy's or whatever else, or a chain restaurant. The chain has a stake in the company a little bit because if that chain is not doing well, they're not making money. So it is important, and that's why you see like the chain companies, they will the corporate people will come in and train everybody and train them in all of these procedures, and prior to, if you're just a mom and pop, you might not have that training training and all of that, so where you might not have the control, as much control as a lot of those chain restaurants do.
And possibly nothing more dynamic in any other industry than food cost. Labor is not simple by any means, but it is certainly easy compared to the complexity of food cost. We can look and manage our labor by controlling the times that we bring people in, making sure that people don't hit overtime, making our shift cuts when we see the volume start to tail off, making adjustments for the future weeks based on what our trend is doing, either up or down. So labor can be relatively controlled. But food cost is so dynamic because it hits us in 3 different capacities. And I can't think of another industry as dynamic as the restaurant industry when it comes to managing the overall cost of goods, and specifically food and beverage cost. And here's why. Very rarely will you find an industry that is a retail vehicle, a wholesale vehicle, and a manufacturing vehicle. So let's talk about retail real quick. We bring product in bulk, we separate it, and we sell it individually. That would be something like your French fries. Wholesale, we bring product in bulk and we sell it in bulk. That might be something like big caterings or large deli trays or big, huge continental breakfasts. Those things are a wholesale capacity. And then finally, we have manufacturing, and this is what is really, really challenging. Some of that product we bring in, we take it right out of the box, put it in the fryer, boom, our French fries are out, easy to manage and control. But some of the product we bring in, and we've got to take multiple different products, blend them together, cook them, use different techniques, start with a beginning weight, render it, cook it down, figure out what our yield is, figure out how much all of those ingredients combined cost us to come up with this yield, and then divide that by how we're going to serve it, either by the ounce or by the each or what have you. That's manufacturing. Take all of that and then do what no other industry has to face, and that is dealing with immense perishability, time, temperature, controls relative to portion and quality and quantity. There is nothing more dynamic in any other industry that I look at across the chasm of big business where I see something more complex and more convoluted. And because of all of that, because that is so multifaceted and so dynamic, if we don't pay attention to these items and look at them at a very, very granular level, we will not be able to control our costs and impact our profitability. So holy cow, that is really kind of the food cost introduction 102 or next level type of stuff. But just consider it a broad stroke of what's in store, and let's move into what we can control, what we can understand, and what we can.
And I will get back to this video in a little while. That is kind of what I wanted you to hear right now. But when you are creating recipes, recipes are a list of ingredients, and you basically list ingredients, and you usually have, in a recipe, for example, like this one, you have your name, you have whatever the yield is, right? Whatever it makes, whatever this recipe size makes. You have ingredient lists, like, how much you need, how it's cut, whatever else, or if it's cut, lightly beaten, or what have you. And then you have the production portion of it, of how to do it, what kind of. Also, there might be a resin, like size equipment, or what kind of equipment you need. You might have an equipment list kind of off to the side of what do you need. You need a whip. You need whatever you need to utilize to make this dish. In any notes or anything like that. Do you mind reading this slide for me?
A recipe is a list of ingredients and a set of instructions that tell you how to cook something. With the use of standardized recipes, it can help ensure consistency, and this benefits guests and the restaurant. Restaurant can foresee the budget, and guests can have the same taste, looks, and smell of the food item. In return, restaurants can earn more revenue, as guests will receive consistent taste and value if they use the standardized value.
Okay, thank you. All right, now what we're trying to say, and what I want you to understand, is standardized recipes are so important because we want things standardized, right? We want the sauce to taste the same every single time, no matter if I make it, or if you make it, or if someone else makes it. We want that sauce to taste the same, or that cake to come out looking exactly the same, because because customers want that consistency, right? And that's kind of what they're wanting. So and that helps me make sure my cost is in line, because if someone adds something to that dish, that's going to raise my cost or whatever else. So that changes my cost. So making sure that my employees, making sure that we have a standardized recipe. We just, excuse me, we just don't do it by um, you know whatever we think. Oh, this is what we need, or this is what we need in the sauce, or whatever else. Hey, I like to put this spice in there, or what have you. Know what you need is the standardized recipe and stick with it, because if you don't stick with it, then you don't know what kind of cost you have, right? You don't know how much you're spending and what it costs to make and all of that, and how in for your employees to know how to make it correctly. So I that is very important. A In order, basically for a standardized recipe, it you know a recipe manual, like does anybody work at a place where they have a recipe booklet, or a recipe manuals for how to make your recipe, or how to make these cakes, or how to make how they want you to make the cakes, or how they want you to make the sauce, or whatever it is, because most companies, or most people have their recipes, and you need to go by them, right? So it is very important to have a manual, have something. Plus, how do you teach your employees, your new employees, how to make something, right? You give them the manual and say, okay, here's the manual, here's how to make it, or here's the ingredients, until they get used to it. I want them to use the recipe, and even when they're not, if they've been doing it for a while, I always check them. I want to make sure that they're sticking with the recipe, because if they add more to a dish, that means that they're no matter what, if they add something else that is not related to this, or that's on this recipe, this is where I costed out the recipe, or this is what I use to cost out the recipe. If there's something else, then I need to make sure I cost that out, or add that to the cost. Plus, this tells me, if I have a catering job, and it's got the yield, how much yield. This only serves one cake. Well, I need to make 15 cakes, so I multiply this, or whatever else. I have it right there. I know exactly how many portions it'll, how many portions it will, yield. It tells me, how to, just everything you need to know how to make that dish. So the manuals are so important. Having that is very, very important. Benefits. Do you mind reading this one?
Benefits of recipe management system. Designates a plan for daily preparation and manages staff's time more efficiently. Makes it easier to set priorities of items that need to be prepared first, second, etc. Following a daily production list makes it easier to track usage and set par levels. Helps to ensure that you won't run out of product. Helps direct management attention to the items being produced. Easier to inspect quality and status of completion.
For sure. Okay, thank you. And that helps set par levels, and par levels are levels of however you want to have two cakes at all times, or whatever else, and this helps you set par levels. It also just makes sure that the money is aligned. Everything is, I'm optimizing everything. My money, my product, my recipe is going to come out standard, no matter whoever makes it. That's the most important thing, because have you ever been around, or had someone, one person makes a dish, and then, I mean, like, and even in school, like, you all have the same recipe, right? The same everything, and y'all all make it, and they're all a little bit different, right? And it's because of you might not go directly by that recipe, or whatever else, or so where you want that standardization, because no matter what, like that guy was saying, in the portion of the video, I mean, we deal with perishable stuff, and let's say, I decide, I don't want to use this herb in the sauce that is specifically for the sauce, this herb for the sauce. Well, then I don't use it, and then we've bought it, and now it's going to go to waste, and because it's so perishable. I've lost money on that. Plus, I'm probably going to piss off a few customers, because that sauce is not going to taste the same, or whatever else, because my employee didn't do follow the recipe. So now I've got angry customers. Plus, I lost money, because the herbs died, and I had to throw them away, or whatever else. So, very, very important, and it ensures that you don't run out of product. I mean, that's another big thing. If I just haphazardly throw stuff in a product, or in a dish, and I didn't schedule it for that dish, well, I'm going to run out of product, or not have enough product to do other things. So making sure I know exactly what things are going into it, and making sure I have it in that recipe. Okay. In addition to a list above, or a list above standardized recipe, like all of these listing, you include cost, recipe cost, like, how much does it cost? Like, for example, here, $2.83 per serving, 209 with a special, or whatever else you can have, the calorie count, all of that sort of stuff. You can have, tips on, like, for example, like, here's like this would be a picture, or this would be in a folder, right? For someone that is doing the grill station. Okay, here's how you put together kebabs, or beef and vegetable skewers, or what, so it's got a picture, so where my customers know, or I'm sorry, my employees know how to plate it up exactly, consistently every single time. So if two people order this dish, at the same table, you don't want one dish to look one way, and then the same dish to look a different way. So you want standardization, and that's why pictures are so important, right there. How to garnish, what to garnish. Here, recommended side dishes, method, all of these things. This helps you, and then these guys, this is more of a computer thing, but you can have your notes, you can have review, like, you can have many different things, and if something, if you've got to be careful, you can write, I need you to be careful because it could burn, or whatever else you need to, or make a side note, please soak the skewers the night before, so the skewers don't burn, or whatever else. Any of these things, this is the benefit of having a system, a recipe system in place, because if not, you're just going to, if someone, let's say for this vegetables kebab, If someone decided to put a different vegetable in this kebab that's not costed out, it's going to cost me money, right? So it's very, very important to. And then if they don't use the mushrooms, well, that was the only reason why we buy mushrooms is this. Well, the mushrooms are going to go bad, so I'm going to throw them away and I'm losing money. So, very, very important. Standardized recipe also helps with the HACCP program. And and this is going into the Wayback Machine on sanitation days when y'all were in sanitation. But the HACCP program is a sanitation program where it follows an item from beginning to the end, like until it's served. And they follow like the critical control points, CCPs, and when things are like, let's say chicken, for example, I follow chicken from the minute I get it in the door and all throughout until I sell it to the customer, because chicken is a potentially hazardous food, right? So you want to make sure you follow that, and then also on this recipe right here, you can say you need to check the temperature. It shouldn't be over, it needs to be over 165 degrees for 15 seconds, or whatever else, in you just making sure that you have these in place. That is so important. Many kitchens will have workstations with mise en place set up, which include cutting board, salt, pepper, tasting spoons, whatever else. So like it helps you with your mise en place, right? And the reason why I love it is because of it. This, I even get you to write out what kind of pots and pans and all of that, because if I have an employee that knows how to do it, or has all of that information, it saves me time, because that is less of my employees walking around, milling around, looking for a pot, looking for a pan. They get it all at once, and they can just knock out all of that stuff, all their prep. So making sure that you have that in place is so important. And I think if you do not have standardized recipes, and you don't have your employees following them, you are going to lose your business eventually. You are going to go. You will lose business, because you don't know what is the cost, what things you need, everything else. It just just so important. And what kind of tools? I mean, what kind of tools do you need? I mean, if you didn't have a standardized recipe like that, then maybe I wouldn't know what kind of equipment I needed or whatever else. So important, just like for when you go into class, whoever your instructors were, they said, okay, you need this, this, and this, and you go and get it and have it at your station or whatever else. So you're not having to walk back and forth and having to waste a lot of time. Do you mind do you mind reading this slide?
Employees can gather everything they need before starting recipes, preparation, thus reducing traveling around the kitchen during preparation, kitchen congestion, loss of focus from frequent starting and stopping, and errors from interruptions to their work. Detailing the mise en place for individual ingredients, such as peeling and cutting with each ingredient, can also improve the clarity and efficiency of recipe preparation. Example, raw white potato peeled, 1/2 inch dice.
Thank you. So, excuse me. My allergies are real bad today. Loss of focus, and I've seen that with employees and even with students or and even my kids, type of deal of when they one once something happens, or if they have to walk and go get something, they lose focus, they forget things, they make a lot of more errors. So making sure that standardized recipes keeps you more focused in to your project, and that is so important. Um, let's see. It is a standardized recipe is a set of written instructions used to basically prepare a product in a quality product, in a specific location or whatever else. So you want to make sure those written instructions are good. Now there are multiple standardized recipes, and you have what I would consider professional standardized recipe, and you have a home style professional or standardized recipe. Uh, Home style would be maybe more spelled out, kind of a preheat oven to 350 degrees or whatever else, right? Well, most kitchens, the ovens are always on, right? There's never in a professional kitchen, the ovens are always on. So why spend a professional standardized recipe? You don't need preheat oven to 350. That's a given. You are turn it on. You want to you just don't you just don't have that. But in a home style, you need to decide on who the people are that are using this standardized recipe, right? So you need to make sure it is written to not the education, but the ability of the people, whoever the people are that are going to be making it. As a professional in a professional kitchen, we know what saute is, or we know what grill marks or whatever else. We don't have to be as we can just say get a quadrillage, and that tells me I need grill marks or whatever else. We can be very specific in our terminology because we know our terminology, but at home people don't. So there are two different styles or two different ways of dealing with like home standardized recipe versus anything in a cookbook that you can buy. Most are in magazines. That's more of a home style because the people don't know all the terminology and all the stuff is like we do. But no matter what, you need to be specific in what needs to happen, because no matter what, that employee, if this is the standardized recipe, they're going to read verbatim and do exactly what this says. And if it's wrong, or if it does, or if it's very vague, then people are not going to do exactly what we want them to do, and it's not going to come out properly. We want it to taste exactly the same every single time. We want it to look exactly the same every single time. That's consistency or standardization, and that's why we need a standardized recipe. Do you mind reading this?
A standardized recipe is a recipe that has been tested for use in a specific kitchen to ensure that it will produce the same yield, amount of food in weight or volume, serving size, and number of servings. It will contain the clear measure of every ingredient with standard measures weight and sizes, as well as the specific method or technique utilized to cook and the time it will take to produce in order to guarantee the quality every time the recipe is followed as written. It can contain pictures of the final products and special instructions if needed. It can contain nutritional values or allergies information.
Yep. Thank you. Um, so it can contain all of that. Key components, menu, name of the menu item, right? Total yield. This is something you're going to be having to do. You're going to have to be making recipes. So this is, I would say, if you take a picture of this or make sure you look at this, know where the PowerPoints are, because this is something you're going to be starting to do for your project, and that is the menu, creating your menus or your recipes. And so it's going to have your menu item name, your total yield, portion size, ingredient list, then the preparation, specific directions. If there's any HACCP cooking instructions, like our HACCP, for example, if you're anywhere where it's the what I call the high population group that could get sick in the sanitation department type of deal, of the elderly, the children, any immune deficient, anybody with cancer, anybody with just immune deficient in general. You have to do the HACCP program in like hospitals, school districts, retirement communities, any of those sorts of individual or groups or companies like that. They have to have the HACCP program in place. The health department requires it because it follows it. So having that, making sure the proper temperatures of what temperature things need to be cooked at, specific instructions on just how to deal with it, the mise en place list, like equipment, serving, how to serve it, or how to even serving instructions also include how to hold it hot or how to hold it cold or how to cool it down as well. If I'm trying to cool a big old stock pot of tomato sauce or something like that down, I need to make sure that if we're making a large amount, I need to make sure that I tell my employees how to cool it down properly and how to store it properly, and also how to plate it up properly, like a picture of how to plate up the dish, how to garnish it, how to finish it. So all of those things uh, should be in there, depending on the HACCP program. Sometimes you don't have to, but for sure cooking temps and how how long you need to keep it in there for. Like for example, like if you have someone that has never, in there are kitchens, there are people in kitchens that don't know that have never gone to culinary school, so they might not know, for example, how to that you need to cook a cheesecake in a water bath or something like that. So making sure that you have you have that instructions that you need to put the cheesecake in the pan, pour water in the pan to prevent it from cracking or browning or drying out or whatever else. So those are all certain things that you should make sure you have in that directions. Here I will show you a standardized recipe form in a here I'll do it now. And this I'm gonna send out to everybody tonight or today. And this is basically a standardized recipe form that I'm going to ask you to use. Here, you know what? I thought I had it. Hold on. I thought I had an exam. All right, I will find a example of one written out. I thought I had one, but you know, here you go. Section would be, you know, the grill section or whatever else. You know, you would, you know, soup or, and then you have the yield. You have portion size. How, you know, how much do you, you know, portion size is 6 ounces. This yields, the yield would be 12 um 12 rolls. Portion size would be 4 ounce or 2 ounce dough, you know, 2 ounce dough ball or whatever else. And then a number of portions. You have the tools written down, what kind of tools you need, how long it's going to take to prep, cooking time, any ingredients right here, units right here, quantity, any additional information, uh, preparation right here. If you have any HACCP information, it would go here. The picture of the dish would go right here. And then that would be what a standardized recipe would look like. I swear I thought I had one that had, I'll have to search around for it. But on that note, it is 8 o'clock, or it's almost 8 o'clock. Let's reconvene at 8:10.
Heard.
Cool, cool.
Heard, Chef.
All right. Well, I'll just find the standardized recipe that has one in there or a recipe in there in a little bit. Get back to, all right. So standardized recipes are control tools, and again, like I said at day one of our class, chefs are control freaks. We are, and that's just part of it. We want to control everything: portion size, quantity, garnishing. It helps with also it helps with specific diets, the standardized recipes. You can kind of arrange it to that. It'll help with the truth in menu. In when it comes to certain items, if it's you can write it down and make sure that there's fewer errors. If you have something written down black and white or pictures of showing what things should look like, there are fewer errors, less errors, less money because most of the errors that happen are screw ups, whatever you want to call it, that happen cost a restaurant money, no matter what. If it's a accidental, put the wrong herb in the tomato sauce, put cilantro instead of parsley in the tomato sauce, that's a huge mistake. So and it could cost your all that tomato sauce. You might have to throw it all away because it's going to taste like cilantro. So you want to make sure that if you do have cilantro, and this could happen, you maybe say, here's the picture of the parsley leaf, so you can kind of look at that, so you have a better understanding, and so there's fewer errors when you're dealing with the food. Less in a great way for cross training. Uh, when I was working at stations, if I moved up to the grill station or the saute station or the fry station or the saucier station or what have you, you know, I would before I go moved up or moved to a different position, the my bosses, whoever it was, or my boss, whoever it was at that particular time, would say, okay, here's the standardized recipe book, and study it, know it, and even I would I would have to take quizzes on the standardized recipes, so where they're assuring themselves that I'm not going to be screwing up, because that's a lot of money if I screw up recipes or whatever else, or I don't I if you um, for example, if I'm doing a huge banquet, and I would put, make sure you don't get the water, and I'm doing, I don't know, making bread for a banquet, right? And that's, I'm doing big bulk things, and so where I would make sure I say, please, watch the temperature of the water when you put it in with the yeast, or, you don't want it too hot, or, don't put the salt directly on the yeast because it'll kill it, or what have you. Uh, so less errors, and less things I have to throw away, the less money I'm losing. And just cross training in general, I think is so important. And your employees will get better at it, and plus they have a thing to study, right? If it's all word of mouth, or whatever else, if it's kind of like that, and this happens a lot, at stations where you're just like, it's like the telephone game. I'm working the station, and I'm going to go train somebody else, and I'm training them, verbally, in nothing written down, so they could easily make mistakes. I could easily forget something or say something, tell them the wrong item, and they might not make the right product. But here, if it's black and white with with pictures and all of that sort of stuff, man, it's cut and dry. There is no, it's this, not this. It's very easy. Helps analyze the HACCP program and easy for customer experience. And that's there's two major things. It's for the customer's experience and for me saving money, no matter what. So those are both great examples or great things for a standardized recipe. And it just allows me to know exactly what I need to order. Because if I'm just kind of picking out them, each line chef can do whatever they wanted to do, then I don't know what to order. I don't know how much to order. I don't know anything. So it's just kind of chaos and anarchy type of deal. Let's see. Do you mind reading this?
Arguments often used against standardized recipes can include take too long to use, employees don't need them, they know how to do things in establishment, chef doesn't want to reveal the secrets, takes too long to write/develop.
All right. If there's a chef that doesn't want to reveal their secrets, that's just ridiculous. That's stupid. I totally get, like here, Coca-Cola Company, they don't want to reveal their secret recipe, right? That's different. That's a totally different deal. And the recipes, no matter what, if you're selling it to the public, you need to either be there the whole time to do everything, or you write it down and you do it. Now, there are ways around secret. I've had to sign secrecy agreements, if you will, on certain dishes or certain recipes, or like whenever I get a job, I will, if there are, certain like intellectual property or any property or any way that they combine this and this is like for example, certain like barbecue places have their own little kind of what I call the ratio of different types of wood that makes their barbecue taste like that, right? So that there are certain combinations of certain things that some people don't want you to know, but as an employee, you have to sign a secrecy agreement, and they'll allow you to understand what it's in there. But when I leave, I can't. I'm supposed to not say anything, but I mean, you look at what copycatrecipe.com or something like that, and you get lots of companies' secret recipes, but realistically, it's a recipe. I mean, it's not a big deal. So I think just let that go. When you become a chef, just let it go. It is what it is. Just lean into it and just know that it's for the good of your company and all of that. So don't worry about it. It takes too long to write or to develop. Yes, it does take a little bit of time, but again, it saves you time and money, and it saves you a bunch of angry customers as well, because the customer base started wanting to go there because of this certain dish or this way it was cooked or this way it was made. And why screw around with it? Why change it if it's working? But it does take a little bit of time, but it saves you time in the long run, because you don't have to. I don't have to have. I could just give a book to somebody and say, okay, learn these recipes. Then once you prove to me you learn this recipe, then I'll move you up to a different station, right? That puts the burden onto them to my employee. I put that burden onto them instead of me having that burden of me having to train them, verbatim, of all these recipes. I give it to them and I give them that burden. And so it's their choice if they want to learn it or not. And then plus I can manage by this, I mean, if they're not doing this, well, this is why I'm firing you, or whatever else, or this is why I'm disciplining you, or whatever else. This is why you're not getting a promotion because you're not doing this, and we're losing money, or what have you. So, making sure that it is developed, and that is why, I mean, has anybody ever worked at a fast food place when they first opened, or if you have ever done that? Most fast food companies are most like big chain companies that are franchised. I'm going to say franchise companies. They always have, they have documentation or kind of this stuff developed because they want them to be successful, right? So they're going to develop these programs, and this is why why it costs a little bit more money for franchises, because they already have these things developed, right? They already have programs developed. They already have these standardized recipes. So they give you all of this. And that's why most franchises a lot of them are more successful than a mom and pop, because a mom and pop do not have these processes in line, and sometimes they don't know how to do it either. So, that's so important. Again, I'm kind of beating the dead horse a little bit, but it really, it gives you consistency. It makes you understand how much profit you're going to have, how much loss you're going to have, and how much, if you have leftovers, I would say, this is what I would do for the leftover chicken. If we don't sell the roasted chicken, we turn it into chicken salad for the next day or whatever else. So where it has suggestions for the customer or the employee to utilize. The customer will be able to. All right. Let's see. Do you mind reading this? The yield?
The yield of a recipe is the number of portions it will produce. Yields can also be expressed as the total value or total weight the recipe produces. An example would be a soup recipe that yields 24 8-ounce portions, which could also be stated as a yield of 6 quarts or a 1.5 gallon. A weight example would be a recipe that yields 20 4-ounce portions of taco meat, or a total yield of 5 pounds.
Yeah. Hold on.
Excuse me, chef.
Yes.
Um, is there a standard equation for that, like for one to solve that?
Could you say that again?
Is there a standard equation for one to be able to find the yields and the?
Yeah. Well, no, there isn't, and I'll kind of talk about it here, guys. I would recommend whenever you, I in this book, I got on Amazon. It says the Book of Yields. This book, if you ever want to be in, I would suggest at some point in your career, you spend the money and you buy this book, the Book of Yields. It will, for example, it's got every yield, like how much basil, dried basil, like what kind of yield. If I cook a piece of meat, how much fat am I going to lose? All of that. This book is an amazing book. I would suggest any professional chef that is in the business to uh, buy this book. And there's like a hardcover. I know like on Amazon you can buy. I bought this on Amazon, but there is like a digital copy I think you can buy as well or get, and I think it's cheaper. But anyway, I think that would be, it's the best investment for you if you're going to do this for your rest of your life. I would say if you are the executive chef or sous chef, I would always, I mean, honestly, I've had this book in my offices no matter what. In any office that I worked at, I carried this book with me. You know, it really helps you out, especially when you're costing out recipes and you're you know, trying to you know, make sure that you're going to be maximizing all your profit and making sure you're not losing or are losing a lot of money. But that is a good, but there is no really standardized. I mean, honestly, you know, what a lot of times you have to do is, you know, I'll get a potato, weigh a potato with, you know, just weigh it, and then I peel the potato, and then I weigh the potato after I peel it, and then just kind of weigh the peelings, and then I determine how much loss I got, and then I've got to figure out how much per like if that potato I bought per pound, let's say it was $1 a pound, right? I lost, let's say, an ounce. I need to figure out how much, if I, you know, if it's $1 a pound, I need to figure out how many pounds is that. I need to convert that into ounces, and then I need to figure out how much I lost, and then I kind of figure that cost out, and then I have to add that to the potato cost, because if I'm throwing away those uh, you know, peelings, I paid for those peelings, right? So I need to cover that cost instead of throwing it in the garbage and just calling it garbage. I can throw it in the garbage, but I need to add that money to the cost of that potato, because if that potato costs $1, I threw away a penny's worth of it. So it still cost $1, but I'm throwing away a penny's worth. So I need to add $1.01 to that to make it $1.01, because I lost that 1 cent, right? I threw it away, so I need to add that cost back in. So that is kind of, or a steak. If I cook a whole piece of chunk of meat, and there's beef is about 75% water or whatever else, and you have a lot of a liquid, or 25%, sorry. But you know, and you lose a lot of moisture. So when it shrinks up, that moisture goes in the thin air, but I paid for that moisture that went into thin air. So I've got to cover that cost. Does that make sense? So I've got to figure out how much moisture I lost, and that's why weighing your meat before cooking, and that's called AP, as purchase price. So the price that I bought it at is that, but EP, the edible portion, I need to figure out how much that edible portion is and add it back to what I lost, because I paid for it, but I'm not selling that portion of it. I still have to capture that price or that cost. And that is kind of the reason why yields are so important. Cutting a bell pepper, cutting, now again, for pastry, I mean, it correlates still. I mean, your strawberries, when you paid for that stem, right? You cut that stem off, you still paid for that stem. You've got to cover that cost some way. Even though that you're not selling it, you threw it away, but that cost money. So when you throw it away, you still have to add it back to the cost. So that those are the reasons why it's so important to cost out your recipes and understand the yields, because anytime you paid for it, but you're not selling it, that's a loss. That's a half an ounce, an ounce. It's like, y'all probably all used what Eagle brand milk, like the thick, y'all are pastry people, or something in a can that, tomato sauce that stuck to the sides. If you don't scrape out that can, right? Whatever that, if it's a 2 ounce, let's say it's an ounce of tomato sauce or an ounce of Eagle brand milk or condensed milk that's left in that can, and I throw it away, I'm throwing away product that I paid for, that I'm not capturing any cost. So that's why scraping out the cans, doing all of that, and that's something I would make sure I put in my standardized recipe, is scraping out the cans and with a rubber spatula. I gave every employee that I had always a rubber spatula, because a rubber spatula is something that will save me money in the long run. Because if you scrape out those cans, that's pennies, half a penny every single day adds up. So those are those things that I think would be great on a standardized recipe, is those things. But no, to answer your question, and it was a very long answer, but no, there is no specific way of doing it. But there are, there are, on the average, and this is what this book gives you, is on the average. So it gives you kind of good ballpark figures. But anyway, let's see. And this kind of, I kind of described what we were talking about here. Do you mind reading this real quick?
Standard yields for higher cost ingredients such as meat may also take into consideration portion costs and be determined in part by calculating the cost per cooked portion. For example, an 11-pound roast might be purchased for $17 a pound. The cooked roast is to be served in 8-ounce portions as part of a roast beef dinner. In theory, that will mean 22 pieces of 8 ounces. After trimming and cooking, the roast will not weigh 11 pounds, but significantly less, and will thus yield fewer than 22 portions. The roast weigh 7.5 pounds equals 15 portions of 8 ounces, loss of 3.5 pounds.
Okay, so those are the things, and I've got to, even though I lost that three and a half pounds, right? I lost 3.5 pounds, but no matter what, I paid for those 3.5 pounds, right? So I need to cover that cost. I need to make sure that I wrap that cost into that cost of the recipe. If not, I am every time I sell this recipe, I'm losing money, right? So those are the things that I think a lot of what I call the mom and pop people, that kind of sometimes don't understand, that have never gone to culinary school, that has always just wanted to open up a restaurant or whatever else, and they do, and they lose their shirt because of these certain things, and that's so important. Standardized recipe also gives you, the size, portion size, and you always want to figure out how much it costs to make one dish, right? Because once I determine how much it costs to make one serving of this thing, then I can say, okay, it's, I can just cost it out for a burger. How much does that burger completely made cost, with the lettuce, the 2 pickles, the little bit of ketchup, all of those things? I need all of that combined, because I'm selling it all together, right? So I need all of the cost put together to tell me exactly how much profit, or how much I'm going to be making. on that one item. Then I add my food cost percent, and then I multiply that, and my food cost percent is kind of what he was talking about in the video of you're trying to now get that profit on in the fixed cost, and all of those things is wrapped into your food cost percent. Let's see. All right, this is just talking about control. All right, it just helps you budget. It all of those things, in general. You know, it, when you're in a kitchen, measurements, in when you're doing this, you want to make it the recipe easy to manage and to measure. Always make it don't put like 35 tablespoons, right? I mean, that's ridiculous. You want to make it just easy, easy for people, ounces, pounds, grams, depending on what it is. But a lot of the baking, what are the in baking, do you use a lot of grams and lots of ounces and all of that. So just making sure that everything is when it's supposed to be volume, it should be volume, right? Volume. What kind? You've got volume, you got weight, and you got count, right? Count is like eggs. I mean, I need eight, 8 ounces is a volume. 8 ounce of milk is a volume, right? But if I do flour, 8 ounces, and that's by weight. So you have different. So volume is more liquid kind of a deal, and weight. Just make sure when you're doing it, you're making sure that you understand what it is and count like 15 each or 10 each, or for like a carrot cake, 12 carrots or 12 each, or something like that. But maybe not. Maybe I need it by the weight because it needs to be graded. Plus I need to peel the carrot, cut the stem, all of that sort of stuff. So maybe I need to do it by weight. So that would be more ounces or pounds type of deal. And then volume would be quarts, pints, fluid ounces, all of that sort of stuff. And we also, we also use standardized recipes as kind of for help portioning, because ice cream scoop, if you've ever been to, I don't know, like Luby's cafeteria or a cafeteria at some point, or gone to even a barbecue place, sometimes they use a ice cream scoop to scoop out like potato salad or something like that. And we use those scoops or spoodles or the ladles or any of those things, and they're usually color coded. I don't know if you've probably even seen like cookie or small ice cream scoops for cookies and all of that. They have purple and red and green. And those colors determine the different sizing and how big, and that kind of gives me the so where I can be more consistent and make sure that I'm capturing those costs and all of that. Because if I do a little bit bigger, I costed it out for a smaller cookie, not a larger cookie. So now with a larger cookie, if it's double the size, I'm losing I'm losing the cost of one whole cookie just because my employee didn't look at the size of the scoop or whatever else. But also, you know, let's see, when you're dealing with volume, sometimes it is a scoop or a spoodle or a ladle size. So do you mind reading this?
Recipes often need to be adjusted to meet the needs of different situations. The most common reason to adjust recipes is to change the number of individual portions that the recipe produces. For example, a standard recipe might be written to prepare 25 portions. If a situation arises where 60 portions of the item are needed, the recipe must be properly adjusted.
Okay, so making sure you adjust the recipes is so important. Let me see.
So you've heard how important portion controls are in your restaurant. Yet you go to your chef or kitchen manager and say, I need portion controls, and they fight you. I don't need portion control.
Sorry.
That'll slow our line down. It's not worth it. We're dead on. Well, you ever wonder you should trust your gut that they're wrong and why it's important they should do it? I'm going to tell you why in just 1 second. Hello, this is Dave Scott Peters with therestaurantexpert.com, and I feel your pain. I've walked down to back to my kitchen and said, hey, chef, we need portion controls. Oh, yeah, sure. And they put the ladle in and the right scoop and all this stuff, and days go by, and I come in, and it's the ladle twice the size, and there's no scoop, there's tongs, there's all these different things. Nobody cares. Nobody pays attention. And, they tell me, well, it's too hard. I've tried, David. I tried to implement these portion controls, but I just can't get anybody to use them. What the hell does that mean? Who signs their paycheck? Now, don't get me wrong. I need employees. I want my employees. I cherish and value my employees, but they are going to do the damn job. So you need to manage your damn business. Now, look, portion controls are extremely important. Let me tell you why. Let's say, following the recipes, you did recipe costing cards, you've got your menu mix, what your customers actually purchased. By putting those together, I can tell you what your ideal food cost should be if there was no waste, no theft, no spoilage, perfect restaurant, which does not exist. And let's say that perfect, ideal food cost for your restaurant is 30%. Well, no, I do not expect your kitchen to run 30%. We take inventories and put our purchases and our sales together. Beginning inventory plus purchases minus ending gives me use divided by sales, food costs. I'm not expecting 30-30. That's impossible. We're not robots. But I am expecting a 31.5 to 32%. I'm giving my chef or kitchen manager a 2-point leeway. So let's get back to this 30% ideal food cost. No waste, no theft, no spoilage. That means my kitchen was managed so well that all my cooks followed the recipes perfectly. Well, then I go and I say, wait a second, I overportioned. Each cook overportioned by 10%. Now, do me a favor. Think about it. Can your naked eye see 10% more French fries on a plate, 10% more rice, 10% more beans, 10% more shredded lettuce, whatever it may be? The answer is no. When you say, wow, that's too big, you see 25% or even more, and you say, whoa, fix it. So let's say every dish goes out of your kitchen 10%, just slightly, 10% bigger than it should be. The portions were larger than they should be by 10%. No big deal. Well, you take a 30% ideal food cost and you now make it 33%. On every $1 million in sales you do, that is a lot of money. So it's critical to make sure that we are using portion controls on our line. What should we use? We should use scales. Now, I know you've got that digital scale that's broken all the time. Use the springy ones. Just make sure you calibrate them. So if it calls for 8 ounces of brisket, I literally, if I were a barbecue place, I'm going to take the paper boat, put the brisket in there, and I'm going to throw away the paper boat after each one, because if I overportion brisket, it could kill my profitability. Well, how about pre-portioning? I'm even going to stand a cook there and pre-portion French fries, my cheapest item in my building. But if I do $1 million a year more in sales, and it's primarily burgers and sandwiches and French fries, my number one side dish, by pre-portioning my French fries, I could save $300 to $500 in food purchases, French fries alone, every week. What about ladles? Putting the proper label. If it says a 1 ounce ladle, put a 1 ounce ladle in. Make sure that we're using measuring containers. If I want a salad to go out, fine, I don't care if it's a coffee cup. If that's a half salad, fill it up, dump it. I don't care what it is, make sure they're standard vessels used for everything. But think about this. It's one thing to put those in place, and you've heard it. Oh, I've tried this before. It takes a manager and a checklist every shift to verify that the right things are being used, and you need to verify, teach, train, hold people accountable. You got to manage this process. But by doing so, you could literally reduce your food costs 2-3 points if you have nothing in place right now. That's how you become successful in the restaurant business. Do me a favor, there was some sort of portion control I didn't talk about right now. Do me a favor, put in the comments below so that every
All right, so you can see how important portion control is, and you could lose money big time if you're not controlling that, and if you cost it out for a 6-ounce steak, and in my person that's cutting the steaks are cutting them 7 ounces or 8 ounces, I'm losing money every time we sell a steak. So those things are so important. Think about standardized recipes. All right. So what I am going to get you to do, I am going to post, and I'm going to show you where I'm going to post it. Hold on. Actually, I'll post it right now so everybody kind of sees. Where it's going to be located. All right, hold on. So this is going to be on day 14. This is the PowerPoint right here. It's going to be underneath the PowerPoint. So when you click on this link right here, it will bring you to here. Does everybody see that? What I need you to do is you need to, when it says open with, you click on that, and you can open it up at, in here, or you can open it as a Google. Why is it not a Google? Or you can open it up in there, and you can then let me go back, and you're going to write out a standardized recipe. You're going to find a marinara sauce. You're just going to Google a marinara sauce and a tartar sauce, and you're going to write down in here. So title is going to be marinara sauce, right? This is where you're going to write marinara sauce right there. And then you're going to look at the recipe, and you're going to, okay, it yields, I don't know, a gallon. And you don't really need to put whatever station it is. I mean, if you want to, you can, saucier station or whatever else. If there's number of portions, you write that. So you're basically going to take a recipe that you Googled, and you're going to transfer that recipe and that instructions over to this standardized recipe form. You're going to, I want you to, if there's certain tools you need, if you need a pot, a pan, a knife, you write it down. If it shows on the recipe how much time it takes to cook or prep time, you write it down. I want the ingredients written down. I want it so where if it's a unit or quantity, what it is, any additional information, the production of this, what you need to do. I want you to put down here. If they even have a picture, you can maybe even try to Google a picture of marinara sauce and place the picture right here on the where it's there. A HACCP program, you really don't need to write down, but oh, here we go. Here's an example right here. Tres leches right here. So, and let's see if there's, I think I just had one. So here's a tres leches, instructions. So tres leches, I don't know why I keep saying soup. Yield 10 portions, size 10 ounces per, that's how much, I guess the size that they're gonna sell. Number of portions you can get is 10. They didn't put any tools, but if you need any tools, write it down. Prep time, 45 minutes, cook time, an hour. Here are all, what kind of the stuff that you need. For icing, you can, any additional information, the prep design right here and a picture of it. So that is kind of what I'm wanting you to do for a marinara sauce and tartar sauce. Why am I doing that? I'm just making sure you can fill this out properly, and then and then we're going to start getting you to start doing your recipes and tailoring it down to around 9 to 10 recipes that out of that 20 recipes that you had that you found for your restaurant that you want to do. So you're going to find, I don't care what recipe you use, but I want it to look something similar to this. In that standardized recipe form that I posted, if you go to the very end of that standardized recipe form and it says tres leches, there it is right there. And that is what I want. And what I also want is do you see how it says tres leches underneath right here? I need you to go in and change the name. This is standardized recipe, so I want you to go in and actually it'll say rename, and you can rename it to marinara sauce or to tartar sauce. So when I'm looking at this, I can say, oh, there's the tartar sauce, there's the marinara sauce, there's the tres leches. Does everybody understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So for homework that I want turned in by Monday is I need you to do the standardized recipe form. I need this exact form, and I put a copy of it on the portal on day 14 right here. And that's where it's going to be living. And I want marinara sauce and tartar sauce made. I want the recipe to make about 10 portions. Okay.
Heard, Chef.
Heard that,
So
Chef.
that is
Heard, Chef.
what. So once we get that done, then that's when I'm going to start kind of letting you loose on doing your project and doing it. And the one thing I want you to know is that you will have time in this class. What is this week? Is this week 3 right now?
Yes.
Yes, Chef.
Okay, so starting next week, week 4, 5, and 6 are a halfway of 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to give you at least about an hour a day to work in class time on your project. So you will be working, we will be working on the project during class time. So so that will alleviate you having to do a lot of homework or a lot of work on your own time. Okay. So I will be lecturing half the time, and then I'll give you time to work on your project. But the project's going to kind of really kick off mid next week. So, but anyway, that's it. If you have any questions, problems, let me know. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Be safe. It's supposed to rain, I think, all the time. Oh, one thing, let me stop sharing real quick. Or was I sharing?
No, you weren't. You got off already.
Well, I know, but was I sharing the marinara and all of that?
Yes.
Yeah, you.
Okay, good. Okay, good. All right. So we every Thursday we have a chef meeting, and Chef Robin was wanting me to make sure if and I don't know what class you're going into next, but she said if you got an email from her saying something about if about next 6 weeks about you being on ground. If you got an email, I did y'all get emails from her?
Yes,
Any of
Chef.
y'all? You
No,
did?
Chef, I haven't received one.
Was it yes or no? I'm sorry.
No.
I have.
Okay,
Some of
who
us have,
said
some
they
of us
had?
haven't.
Who said they had? Was that Victoria?
No, Brianna said she had. I
Oh,
haven't.
Brianna.
checked.
Okay,
And
I'm sorry.
Destiny too.
Okay, so if you got an email from her, please do not respond to that email. There is a link in that email that you click on. So if you, she's not going, she wants you to look at that email and click on the link and answer those questions that she has. If you did not get an email, you are going to be online. Whatever, what you're going to be online next 6 weeks. Whatever it is, I don't know what class Brianna is going to be in, but it's probably a cooking class or because it's going to be, if you got an email, you're going to be doing hybrid. If you did not get an email as of now, you are going to be online, whatever class you're going to be doing online. I don't know. But so please don't respond to that email, Brianna. There is a link in that email. I don't know. I don't know what the email says, but if there is a link in there that you need to click on to do that. Now, if you thought you were supposed to be online or on ground or whatever else, please shoot an email to Chef Robin. Shelly has been on vacation for, she's coming back on Monday. She's been on vacation for the last couple of days. The link is a survey related. Yes, that is correct, Brianna. It's a little survey but that kind of gets the ball rolling. And make sure you put your name on it. So it's a survey and you need to make sure you put your name on it. Thank you, Brianna. I appreciate it. All right, now, any other things y'all need to, now, yeah, go ahead. What's up?
I have a question, Chef.
Yes, of course.
It's actually about our final. So I know we had to create a menu for it and do mission statements.
Yes.
And I know we're going to have to do cost too.
Yes.
Yet, are we going to have to do standardized recipes for all of the 10 recipes we have on our menu?
Yes. Yes, you
Okay.
will. You will have to do the standardized recipes and some of those recipes, like for example, you know, and again, I don't really care what kind of business you're running, a bakery or a diner or whatever else, but you know, let's say there might be a recipe in a recipe. So you might need to make um, like or if you're doing a fried rice, right? You know, you need to cost out the rice first, then you create, you know, because you have to make the rice to make the fried rice, right? So there might be a couple of so you might have for your one item, you might have 2 or 3 recipes for that one item, you know, that you might have to cost out. So my suggestion would be in to look at your recipes and look at your items and maybe not pick the ones that have lots of stuff, right? So maybe just kind of tailor it down. But yes, you will have to do a standardized recipe. And that's kind of why I'm getting you to do this marinara and tartar sauce so I can make sure you understand it. Then I turn you loose on your 10 recipes that you need to do.
Okay. Um, since I'm doing like a lot of pies
Yes.
for mine, and I'm going to be doing 2 different recipes, like, as I know there are 2 different recipes for pie crust for the savory pies and the sweet pies. So can I just do one standard recipe for each and then work up from there? Like, because I know the pie crust is going to need a recipe, and then
Okay, so
all
yeah,
the
the pie
fillings are going to
crust.
need a recipe.
Yeah, so you just cost out one pie crust, right? You're going to do one standardized recipe for the pie crust. That's it. And
Or
then go ahead.
I'm going to do one standardized recipe for the savory pie crust and one for the sweet pie crust because they require different things.
Okay, so you'll just have 2 different recipes, but that is what I call a sub recipe because it's part of the. So you need to cost out the pie dough. You're going to make so each item you're going to cost out. So you're going to cost out that pie dough, those 2 different pie doughs. Then you will then attach that pie dough recipe to the, you know, you're going to find out the cost of that pie dough, and then you'll move that pie dough cost. You'll say 1 each pie dough, savory pie dough, and then that means that you're going to use that cost over there. So yeah, I mean, you only have to do those 2, and then you'll just have to whatever filling, you know, different pie fillings, you're going to have to cost out those as well. Or
Okay, chef.
all right.
Thank
Now,
you.
you're welcome. And I had some questions on making up work. Any makeup work, you watch the video, you email me and let me know, and I'll send it. Brianna, I know you did day 6 and 7. You emailed me last week about that. Shelly's been on vacation. And so when I emailed that to Shelly, and she'll on Monday, she should fix your attendance and take care of your attendance on her end. I will take care of the attendance and grades on my end. But
Okay.
just if you haven't seen a change, she's been on vacation or a week off this whole week. So so things have kind of backed up on that end, but just wanted to let you know, Brianna, I'm taking care of that. But other than that, if anybody needs anything, you know, text message me, email me, and please get that work turned in, and I want it sent to me. You can email it, you can share it as a Google, do it in Google Sheets and share it with me. But I would like that turned in by Monday. It shouldn't take that long. You know, I tried to go ahead. What were you about to say?
Oh, yeah, chef. One question. Do you want for us to have like separate files for each one of the recipes, or can we just use one file and just put multiple tabs in it, just like we would in Excel?
Here, there are already tabs already down here. Here, hold on, let me share my screen. My apologies.
Got it, Chef. Thanks.
All right, so here's my, do you see the screen now?
I see it.
Okay, so down here, if you click on here, there's already tabs kind of right here. So I want you to send me just this one spreadsheet and there are already tabs down here that you can just kind of, copy. And if you need more, you can click on that and you can copy to, or duplicate, I'm sorry, you can duplicate and it will duplicate another one. So I want all your recipes for your project and everything else on this one main spreadsheet, but there'll be different little tabs. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, Chef. Thanks.
Cool. So with that, I have nothing else to say. Please be safe, be careful, and have a great weekend. All right.
You too, Chef.
Oh,
thank you, Chef.
Is someone raising their hand?
Yeah, I am. So
Yeah,
when
what's
you,
up, man?
so when you go back to the spreadsheet you were just on,
Yeah.
I saw my face on it because I have it on as well, and I just put like marinara sauce, and I was gonna ask you if you can see it on there. Or
No, I can't. So that's so cool. Yeah, that's fine. I cannot see it on here.
okay, understood.
So well, I don't. That's weird. Or wait.
Yeah, because I know
I see you right here. You know what? So what I would do is I would go in. I would
copy.
Make a copy and do a copy. Do it. Make your own copy and save it.
Yes, sir.
That's what I would do.
And my second question was I've been watching the days, and I have not sent you the email, but I have for the submissions under the days. I've watched this, I watched day this, and I want to do that.
Could you just email me? Because what I do is I need that as documentation. I keep that as documentation. So anyway, I would really appreciate you just send one email saying, hey, I watched this and this day. So where I can just kind of, because if the accreditors ever question it, we always have that copy of saying that you watched it, and that's the proof. That's the proof that we have for the accreditors if they ever question. They never do, but again, that's part of the school's kind of thing that they want to do. So
yes, Chef.
Cool. Thank you, man. And thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Mr. Brooks, do you need anything? Are you good? Or Banks, I'm sorry. I called you Brooks. I'm sorry. Are you good, Ms. Banks? Oh, everybody else good? Peace out. Y'all have a great weekend.